Some of the worst true crime stories are those where the explanation is incomprehensible or the motive hits a little too close to home. It sounds like a paradox, but this story is a little of both. We came away failing to understand how Jeong Yoo Jeong could act in such an evil manner, but also wishing we could be further removed from the truth. Today we are going to look at a recent case from over in South Korea. This is a bit of a shift in theme from some of our recent videos. The chilling part of this gruesome murder case is that this wasn't someone you'd expect to carry out such a violent crime. Jeong Yoo Jeong looks so young and sweet, but the more we dive into her motives and actions, the more evil she becomes. This is a case where we have questions over Yoo-jung's true intentions and the bigger picture. Aspects of the story and the ease of the investigation suggest a young woman wanting to be caught. Once you've seen the video and all the evidence against her, let us know in the comment section below. Was Yoo-jung out to be caught and made famous for this tragic crime? Or did she just mess up in her elaborate plan? True crime videos are popular across the world. We wouldn't be here presenting this to you today if that wasn't the case. However, there are times when an interest goes beyond fascination to obsession. Sometimes, psychotic fanatics emerge that give us rational viewers a bad name. Sometimes, impressionable young people look up to these famous murderers so much they decide to emulate them. That appears to be what happened recently in South Korea. In today's video, we're going to explore the recent story of Jeong Yoo Jeong. This evil young woman is currently in jail for the murder of a teacher in Busan. The further we go into this story, the more disturbing it becomes. It all starts with a pretty violent stabbing of a stranger and a quick arrest of the suspect. Two things make this one so shocking compared to other murders. First, you won't believe the amount of detail that emerged in the pre-planning of this attack. This sweet-looking girl was fixated on her goal. Keep watching to see how she gained entry into this stranger's home and the chilling explanation in her final confession. The brutal murder of a young teacher. Let's start with the basic details of this case. In May this year, a young 23-year-old woman called Jeong Yoo Jeong killed a teacher in Busan, South Korea. She entered the teacher's home, invited, and soon began a violent attack. Reports show the victim received more than 100 stab wounds across her body as Yoo-jung continued her relentless attack. Many occurred after the victim had died. Yoo-jung is currently in prison, having received a life sentence just days ago. At the moment, we know very little about the victim in this case. This is sure to change with time. As you will see later on, as horrible as it sounds, her identity isn't a crucial factor in this case. What we do know is that she was 26, so not a lot older than the suspect, and that she was an English tutor. She worked to help young students improve their prospects and had no idea who she had invited into her home that day. The nature of this case has left people stunned in Busan. This sort of murder isn't something that happens a lot in this area. Locals can't comprehend how such a sweet-looking young woman could enter someone's home and carry out such a brutal murder. People are beginning to question the potential of something like this happening in their neighborhood. So far, you are probably wondering what went so wrong that day for a young woman like Yoo-jung to murder this teacher so violently. Was there some deep past history and resentment there? Did the teacher fail her, which led to her not getting into college? Are they related in some way, and there was a deeper crime of passion inside the woman's home? Well, the true motive is actually more shocking than that. If you are a regular here, you will be familiar with our tales of murderers killing those close to them in a sudden rampage. This one is different and adds a twist to the true crime genre. If you are new here, welcome. Hopefully you like what you watch enough to subscribe and go through our past videos. Jeong Yoo Jeong's changing story. What makes this murder case so interesting is the changing narrative and the further details that emerge. At first, after Yoo-jung's arrest, she claimed that the attack was out of provocation. She stated that she had been in an argument with the deceased on the property and then lashed out. It would have been easy for police to pull this story apart because of the violent nature of the attack. Yoo-jung would also need to explain why she was in the stranger's home in the first place. It wasn't long before she changed her story and instead claimed it was down to mental health issues. She said that she suffered from hallucinations and mental disorders, meaning she wasn't in her right mind when she attacked the teacher in her home. It seems she did so in the hopes of gaining a more lenient sentence. Again, the police quickly ruled this out. There is a clear reason why the authorities quickly dismissed this idea of hallucinations and a psychiatric disorder. If this were true, Yoo-jung would have acted impulsively. The victim would have been random, anyone who opened the first door she tried in the area. The violent rage would have come out of nowhere with no indication in previous weeks that this could happen. Hallucinations would account for this idea that she wrongly felt she was being attacked. Still, that story doesn't track when she entered the victim's home. We can rule out this idea that she wasn't guilty due to some disassociation. The evidence makes it obvious that she planted this murder, and there is a lot of evidence to support that. As I said, brace yourself because this girl really did her homework. An elaborate plan months in the making. Let's start with the cover-up and removal of the body. Anyone acting erratically out of a hallucinogenic state would have run away and left the body where it fell. Yoo-jung did not. Instead, she left the property, went to a supermarket to buy bins and bags, and then returned. There, she dismembered the body, putting some parts in those supplies and others into a suitcase. She removed personal items, including the victim's phone, wallet, and ID to hide the identity. She then called a taxi to take her and the suitcase to a quiet area of parkland north of Busan. There are simply too many steps here for her to be in the middle of a mental health crisis. She would not have had the capacity to do any of that. To make matters worse for the case, there is an extreme level of premeditation that went into planning this horrific murder. This scheme was months in the making as she scouted her perfect victim. She clearly wanted this to be just right, and went through a sort of grim audition process with candidates. She began searching online for English tutors in the area via an app. She worked through profiles under the pretense of a parent looking to find someone to help their daughter with her studies. She didn't have to speak to any of these people, but could learn enough about them to set up a lesson under this false identity. It seems that she went through this process for months, contacting around 50 people across Busan before choosing her final victim. For some reason, the majority of those contacted were women. Her preference may be down to a greater ability to overpower them due to her size, or there may be a deeper issue. As there are no details about the victim, we can't know what it was about them specifically that makes them the prime target. All we can say for sure is that the 49 other people contacted were very lucky never to hear from Jeong again. With the appointment made, Yoo-jung then carried out phase 2 of the scheme. She planned to go to the home of the tutor, where she would invite her in for the lesson, and then murder her there. She even purchased a school uniform to wear, to pose as a high school student. Yoo-jung's age and facial features mean she could pass for a teenager without too much trouble. In fact, it is her baby-faced youthful appearance that makes her even more disturbing. Then there is the amount of research that went into this murder. As with many murder cases, the police went through Yoo-jung's online browsing history on her phone and laptop. There were search results on how to kill someone and how to get rid of a body. The results show a dedication to her twisted education that lasted for months. This wasn't someone hurriedly looking up solutions after accidentally killing someone, or one night of crazed Googling before a crime of passion. She was clearly diving deep into the subject to figure out her best options. It seems she enjoyed this stage as much as the murder itself. The sloppy cover-up that led to her arrest. So how was Yoo-jung caught? It's clear from what we've gone over so far that she was pretty thorough in her research. She had clearly planned large aspects of this crime for a long time. Surely, this mastermind scheme would have helped her evade capture for a long time, right? Well, no. You see, she was actually pretty sloppy. Yoo-jung was so intent on carrying out the gruesome murder that the finer details of the aftermath fell through the cracks. The police arrested her really quickly because the taxi driver that took her and the suitcase to the woods saw that it was soaked in blood. He put 2 and 2 together and drew a fairly obvious conclusion. Even if she hadn't done that and was more clinical in her dismemberment, there was the issue of the CCTV footage. Cameras clearly showed her entering the home to kill the victim, and then returning with the necessary equipment. Finally, there were additional body parts in her home and other personal items in her possession. As soon as the cops appeared there, they were going to catch her out.
소통해서 이제 캐리어 열어보니까 캐리어 안에 뭐 빗자국도 있고 신분증도 있고 신분증에 보니까 또 우리 금정구 주민이었어요. 집에 가보니까 돈의 흔적이 있는 거예요. 그래야 이제 거기서 지금 긴급 체포했고요.
She did far too much out in the open. It was almost as if, deep down, she wanted to be caught. But why would that be true? The answer here may lie in the ultimate reason for this crime. A true crime obsessive. Yoo-jung was really into true crime. Now, I know what you're thinking. So are we if I'm here presenting this to you and you're subscribed to the channel. We're interested in the stories and the people behind them. We're not fanatical and psychotic about them. She became obsessed with shows and novels on the subject and consumed far too much true crime media. The fact that she was living with her grandfather, with no obvious social network, and was long-term unemployed, gave her more time to invest in this disturbing obsession. After her arrest, psychiatric testing showed high scores that placed her as a psychopath. The worst part of all this is her statement.
살인 충동을 혹시 언제부터 느끼신 걸까요?
피해자는 유가족께 할 말 없습니까?
피해자와 유가족분들에게 전 진심으로 죄송합니다.
살해 후에 여러 차례 집을 오가셨는데 혹시 이유가 있었을까요?
실종 사건으로 위장하려고 했습니까?
제정신이 아니었던 것 같습니다. 죄송합니다.
The suspect triggered social outrage after she reportedly confessed that she killed the victim with no personal connection, just out of her curiosity about what it would be like to kill someone.
우리가 동기가 없는 범죄 또는 뭐 묻지마 범죄라고 얘기를 하지만 사실 그건 외부로 드러나지 않았을 뿐 그 범죄를 저질렀던 사람의 여러 가지 주변 환경이라든지 인간관계라든지 또는 본인의 스트레스에 의한 내면적인 심리 관계 이런 것들을 살펴보면 사실은 다 범죄를 저지르는 원인과 동기가 있기 마련이거든요.
She simply wanted to try it out for herself. She wanted to murder out of curiosity to see what it was like. That's all there was to it. Months of seeking out the perfect victim, just to see how it feels to be like those people on the TV. That's why we have to question if she wanted the police to catch her all along. Her idols on the true crime shows are only famous because they got caught. Now she's alongside them in news articles, documentaries, and playlists like ours. What happens next? If we're right, and she got her wish to be famous and recognized as a violent psychopath, what is the right punishment? This is a tough call. At the moment, Jeong faces a life sentence with the additional clause to wear a tracking device for 30 years. This began on November 24th. She would get to gain notoriety behind bars all through her adult life. However, there is a call to impose the death penalty. Executions are rare in South Korea, with the last occurring in 1997. Yet, there are 59 inmates on death row. Naturally, there are arguments for and against this option. Some feel that the practice is inhumane and fight to see it outlawed in the country. Others would argue that death is the ultimate price for the brutality of this intense murder. She would not get to live to see herself as the sort of villain she idolized. Did Yoo-jung plan the perfect ending? One of the most striking aspects of this murder case is how it feels like a scripted version of a stereotypical true crime story. It is as though Yoo-jung wanted to nail the role beat by beat. She researched everything carefully, she came up with an alias and a costume, and she carried out a pretty cliched stabbing and body disposal. She even went as far as to cover every version of the aftermath possible. First, she had an alibi. Then she had a mental illness like her idols. And then she confessed and ended up as a cold-blooded murderer. It seems like she got the full experience of playing the murderer that she was after. We just don't know the conclusion of the final chapter. Drop us a comment below to let us know what you make of this story. We still have a lot of questions about what was going through the mind of Jeong Yoo Jeong. Do you believe that she wanted to get caught and immortalized as a murderer? Is that why she was so sloppy with that blood-soaked case and all the other evidence? Or do you believe she thought she would get away with it because of all that careful planning? There is no doubt that she put in the work to create this plan. Maybe she got as much of a thrill plotting the perfect murder as she did committing it. Whatever the reason, a poor young victim suffered a gruesome death, all to satisfy a curiosity and true crime obsession. This video has been something of a reality check for all of us true crime fans. While most of us will have a healthy interest in the subject, some psychotic people will go too far.